Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about macro. It's a word that's thrown around quite a lot, especially at newer players, but it's not one that's been very well defined. Today I want to attempt to define it in a way that is understandable to new players. Quite simply, macro is your ability to do very simple tasks very quickly and very efficiently. If you're able to do this as a player, once the game moves into the mid-game and the late-game stages, it's going to, again, increase in difficulty. You're still doing very simple tasks, but you're having to do them more often and remember them more frequently. The best example here is the inject cycle. Every 40 seconds, you have to use inject. If you have one queen and one hatchery, that's pretty easy. By the time you get to, say, 4 bases with 3 queens plus 2 macro hatcheries, that's an entirely more complicated world. Do you send all your queens all the way around the hatcheries? Or do you just keep them parked at one individual hatchery and let the rest just use their natural inject cycle? Do you create more queens? There's so many questions. So if you just tell a Zerg player to macro better, well, what are they doing wrong? Or if you just tell a Protoss player to macro better, that he didn't have enough stuff when he attacked, what does that mean? He should wait longer to attack? Or does that mean he should produce more efficiently? You see, there's a certain ambiguity to the words macro better. So how do you macro better? Well, that's actually going to be the topic of this video. This will attempt to cover all races, though being a Zerg player myself, I do have biases, and I'd like to admit those right here at the beginning. That said, though, let's talk about the Starcraft heads-up display from a player perspective. There's plenty of observer interfaces out there that you can use to change things, but when you are playing the game, this is what your heads-up display looks like. Here in the top right corner, you have your gas count, your mineral count, and your supply. Every player knows that. Even newer players, that's right there. You can't really miss it. In the bottom left, you have your mini-map. A lot of players... Ooh, I think my phone's dying. A lot of players will also know where this is. I mean, again, it's very simple things, very frequently. That's the issue. It's never that these things are hard. So when you see your mini-map cam there, alright, cool. Then whenever you click a unit, or, you know, a hatchery, right to the right of your mini-map cam, you have your stuff popping up on the heads-up display. Very, very simple. And then right there, you know, in the middle of all of it, you have your main camera where, you know, if you click on the mini-map, your main camera goes there. So those are kind of the 4 elements I like to look at when it comes to the heads-up display. Well, interestingly enough, they're arranged in a very particular pattern, and this is what I call the macro triangle. Your eyes should be constantly shifting between these 4 elements in a certain pattern. Before we go into the pattern, though, I want to take a look at why this is important, because I want you to know why we want to know this before you know how to do this. Alright, so have you ever, you know, been attacking into an opponent's position, and then you go back home to build some stuff, and then when you go back, you know, maybe 20 banelings rolled into your army, and your army's gone. So yes, macro's important, but you need to be aware of the battles that you're engaging in, correct? Some players do this, other players don't, but every player should. You need to be in 2 places at once. Well, how do you achieve this? Very, very simply, actually. You want your main camera to be looking at any potential engagement. So if you're moving forward onto the map, your main camera should be on that army, just so you don't get steamrolled by banelings or widow mines or, you know, those types of units. But at the same time, you don't want to mess up your macro. So in order to do this, most players will use hotkeys. Say their army's on 1, they might have their you know, production facilities on F1, say. That's my particular setup. My queens are on the tilde key right next to the 1, so it's like, you know, I go F1, produce. If I need to inject, I'll hit tilde, my inject keys, and slide to my bases, bada boom, bada bing, and then, you know, F1. But in particular, we don't want to focus on the inject because the inject requires going home and looking at your base. So let's just ignore that aspect. For our current purposes, we want to talk more about producing units while staring at your battle. So let's say that, you know, there is this engagement happening or about to happen and you still want to produce. What do? Well, hit F1, which again we're going to use as a substitute for production. Whatever your production key happens to be is fine. Hit F1, hit, you know, your build unit produce key, and then you start producing whatever you need. Let's say, for instance, here I need roaches. Okay, so I'm building all my roaches while still looking at this battle, so I'm in two places at once. Very simple concept. I know most players are going to get this, and I'm pretty sure I'm beating a dead horse. But here's the thing about the macro triangle, okay? You don't ever want your minerals getting above 300 to 400, depending on what race you are. You never want it to be more than you need to expand. That's usually pretty bad unless you're intentionally banking resources for a given reason. So your eyes should constantly be drifting up to the top right corner to look at your resources. From there, they should be going to the bottom left, looking at the mini-map. You don't want to get dropped or, you know, any kind of run-by or flank attack or anything like that. So you want to constantly be looking at the mini-map. Well, in between those 2 points, you have your main camera. So, you know, while your eyes are drifting from the top right corner to the bottom left, you can actually see the middle of the map. So there you go. As long as you have that positioned in a pretty good point, you're good. If you don't, well, once you see the mini-map cam, all you got to do is click the mini-map and you can go anywhere on the map you want. And then, you know, your eyes slide from the bottom left just to the right, and that's going to be your production. So at that point, you're hitting F1, producing all your stuff, rallying it to wherever it needs to go, and then your eyes slide right on back up, crossing across the main camera in the process to your resources, and you repeat the whole thing all over again. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I have a kitty cat chewing on my fingers. What a little jerk. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Okay. So, yes. When you're practicing the macro triangle, you're going to be basically unavoidably paying attention to the main camera. But notice that I never really told you to place your eyes there. It's something you do in passing. The other 3 elements of the macro triangle are the most important. The rest is just a background. You need to be aware of it, but everything else takes priority. Hopefully this video helped you guys. If not, then let me know, because this is something that I wrote in a book a very long time ago, and I think it's a very useful tool, but I had some really big questions about how to translate it into a video format. So if you think I could have done a better job, please let me know. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you want to talk about your own methods of injecting or production or macro or what you do to be a great player, let us all know, because, you know, sharing knowledge, that's what this place is all about. Thanks so much, guys. I'm Shaft of the Clinic Casting Crew. Share this with your friends. Get the word out there. Thanks so much. Bye. And Nova of the Clinic Casting Crew wants to say bye to you guys too. Oh, he's our newest addition. Isn't he so cute? If you like Starcraft and kittens, guys, subscribe.